All right, it's my pleasure to announce a new mini-series of the White Stripe podcast. We're calling this one Stripe Watch. We'll be tackling TVs, movies, and much more. For the first iteration of Stripe Watch, I'll be joined by Josh Hernandez. Josh, thanks for coming in.
All right. Thank you, Trey, so much for having me here. It's a pleasure to be part of this new project that you have.
Yeah, dude, this is so much fun for me. Like when I had the idea of doing this, I thought like I want to start with a Korean drama, and you're just the perfect person for me to watch this with. So for the first series, we'll be rewatching and tackling a Korean drama very close to both of our hearts. I watched this show around April or May of this year, 2020, and it quickly became one of my favorite shows ever. So if you're watching this, consider this a spoiler warning for Itaewon Class. Josh,
Itaewon Class. Let's
what is it
go.
like? What is it like for you when you first watched it?
Well, for me, actually, Itaewon Class is not my first Korean
Yeah,
drama.
yeah.
Um, the my story or my journey around K drama started about March
Ah,
of this year, 2020, and my first drama actually was Crash Landing on You.
ah,
Itaewon Class is actually
okay, okay. Mm,
my second Korean drama,
it's
and
flipped for us.
oh really? That
Yeah,
was your second
I
drama.
I had Itaewon and then Crash Landing second. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, for me, Itaewon Class, just coming into it, I didn't know what to expect,
Yeah.
and I loved everything about I loved everything about the show
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of sentimental reasons, and also on a objective standpoint. I love the drama, I love the story and the characters and the
Mm.
development that happened, and Itaewon Class is the in my in for me personally, it's
Yeah.
the drama or the show that actually propelled me to enjoy Korean culture more as
Mm.
a whole.
Yeah.
Um, it was the starting point for me to watch even more dramas,
Yeah.
get into music, and even the
Yeah.
food, which we'll be talking about throughout the
Yeah.
series. Yeah,
Yes, sir. All
we got
right.
a lot of stuff to talk about.
So one of my favorite shows ever, Itaewon. We're just gonna have fun with this. So if you're watching, we're gonna be having categories of each episode. So join us through every episode, and let's just have fun with it. All right.
Yes,
So
yes,
Josh, what were your
yes.
initial thoughts starting the series again? Because here's the thing, when when we decided like okay, like let's finally do it, right? Let's dissect every episode, talk about what we liked, what we didn't like. When I first started the show again on Netflix, and then I hear that soundtrack, and I see that
Mm.
visual of that purple and all that stuff going around, and it says a Netflix original series, like my heart just blew up. I'm like, yes, I love this.
I honestly had the same feeling. I was watching it a couple of days ago,
Mm.
and um, after I watched the show for the first time, I told myself, you know what, I'm not gonna watch it again after probably like a couple of months
No,
because
yeah, yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
the impact it had,
We
and
talked about this. We talked about this. Yeah,
yeah, we talked about this.
yeah,
We were
yeah,
like,
yeah,
you know what, I'll probably watch it after about 6 months,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then look where we are now. It's after about 4 or 5 months. We're
Yeah.
talking. We're watching it again.
I'm rewatching it, man. I'm just like, when I saw the characters, like you know how they have that kind of cartoonish picture of themselves,
Yeah,
in the
yeah, yeah.
intro. When I saw that and I was amazed. I was like, I miss these guys.
For me, just looking at the intro, it brought back a lot of memories.
Yeah,
And I remember the first time I was looking at the intro, I was like, "Oh man, this is new. They usually don't show cartoon characters or
oh
faces
really?
that
Oh,
much.
okay.
They sometimes they do,
Mm.
but not something of this extent where they do like sort of a sort of like a mix between 2D and 3D. You get what I mean?
Okay, yeah. No, no, I get it.
Yeah, yeah,
I get it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. The people who've watched the show know what I mean when I say that it's sort of like a mix between 2D and 3D.
Yeah.
That the characters are drawn in a very realistic way, and
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
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 they move and all that stuff.
yeah. I completely forgot about that. When I saw that, I was so impressed. I was like, this is great.
Actually, also one thing I'd like to add about the intro, by the way, one thing that caught me off guard watching it for the first time
Yeah.
was the tone of the intro. It was dark. It was
Yeah. No,
it was
I agree.
right.
Yeah.
There was that sort of there was that dark tone to it. So in my head, I was thinking, oh, this is probably gonna be like a serious show. This isn't gonna be like that, comedy. Or if you watched Park Seo Joon shows, to the viewers who are looking at this right now, you would know, and if you are also familiar with Park Seo Joon's works, you would know that Park Seo Joon is the one of the best actors when it comes to comedy or rom coms. So but I haven't seen his prior to Itaewon Class. I haven't seen any of his previous works.
Yeah.
But yeah, the opening soundtrack already set the tone for the rest of the show. Now it's really gonna be a more
so good.
serious,
Yeah.
on a serious note. But
Mm.
I loved it. I liked it.
It's so good. When I was watching it again for the show, and I just got so excited. I was like, yes, I love this show. Like I saw everyone. Anyways, let's jump right into it. All right.
All right,
So we're going to be jumping straight into episode 1. We have
Right.
8 categories, if I'm not mistaken. We
Alright,
have
what are those 8
categories for everyone. So we're going to be just discussing. Josh,
All right.
the Stripe Watch Award, which is your most memorable scenes. Take me through
All
them.
right. Okay, for me, well, I have one in particular.
Go.
If any of you have seen the show already, the first episode already has a lot of unforgettable
much.
moments. So much to talk about.
Yeah.
We'll touch on that later. But for me, and this is one of the scenes that are not brought up that much for someone who
Go.
for a most memorable scene. But for me, interesting enough, my most memorable scene was the moment that Park Seo Joon. Oh, sorry, Park. Park Se- I get them mixed up.
Yeah, me too,
because they
don't worry
both
about it.
have almost the same name. But
in my notes, I'm so tempted to just write PSJ. PSJ
for me,
gets
I
it
wrote
done.
in my notes PSY. Yeah. For me, the most memorable scene was when Park Seroy took his fist and landed a clean punch in Jang Gun-won's face. So clean. I love that moment. And I remember it as clear as day when I watched it for the first time. I was so frustrated and I was so angry at Gun-won at how he was treating the
Another kid.
the classmate who would
Yeah.
eventually become a key character in Park Seroy's life later on.
Yeah.
I loved that scene because you don't normally see somebody standing up for what's right and doing something that's right, even if culture dictates otherwise.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was watching that scene when Park Seroy finally hit Gunwon's face. I remember.
So good.
I remember it was about
So-
10
so
p.m. in the evening. I was watching it. I was all alone.
Yeah.
And I remember when he punched Gunwon, I was like, "Yes, let's go! Finally!" Just all that pent up emotion inside me. Just
Yeah.
it was that release that I wanted to convey. That I really wanted to hit him. Honestly, I
I
was
agree.
right in front of the TV, and I was just so. I mean, if you could, if I could look, if I could see myself, let me go back in time and take a look at myself. I was staring straight at the TV, and I was ready to hit something, and I loved that scene. I love that scene a lot, because it was the catalyst actually for the revolving conflict around the show.
It started
which
the
we'll
whole
be-
show, basically.
yeah, exactly. We'll be talking about the show in deeper, and that was what kicked off the main conflict of the show. Actually,
Yeah.
if that didn't happen, none of the other things that happened in the show would have happened.
True. Yeah.
it
Correct.
the show had a very good introduction. We met all of the characters. We
Mm.
met Park Seri
Yeah.
and also his relationship with his dad
Yeah.
and also his friend Osua.
Yeah.
So those were just laying the groundworks of what was to come.
Yep.
So that scene in
Yep.
particular for me
Yep.
stood out the most.
I
And
I
yeah,
I really like that scene, to be honest. When I watched it again, I agree. I remember watching it for the first time, because while it might not be to the extent of what Gunwan was doing, you do see that in high school. You see
yeah,
these kind of things, whether it's the little like flicking or like threatening, but it might not be the milk spilling or all that stuff. At least in my school, I didn't really see that, but you do see yourself in that situation. You've seen
yeah,
something like that before, right?
mm,
And more likely than not, you didn't punch the guy. So
yeah,
when you see Serowi punch the Gunwan, it's just a release of emotion, like what you said, and it's
mm,
the build up to that, right?
yeah,
Ooh, everyone's saying like, you can't what do you call this? He's talking with Suwa, and Suwa's like, oh, like he's the son of the chairman who's like influential in the city and all that stuff, and no one can do
mm,
anything about it. And then right after the punch, oh, sorry, no, sorry, right before the punch, the teacher comes in the room and it's just like, all right, everyone go back to your chairs, and doesn't mind
yeah,
what's happening.
mm,
And that's kind of what triggers it, right? Because he
mm-mm,
says something along the lines of like, here, I am the law.
yeah,
That's where the
exactly.
punch happens. And when he punches him, I mean, man, that's just the start of the whole show.
Exactly. And what's interesting to note also is instead, like what you said, the teacher came in the class and didn't do anything. It's
Yeah.
pretty useless, pretty useless if I say so myself. Um, what I found interesting watching it again for the second time around was
Yeah.
that the teacher actually ran to Gunwon
Yeah. Okay.
instead of the
Yeah. Yeah.
bullied
Yeah.
classmate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And watching it, I was like, oh yeah, why didn't he go to the
Yeah.
guy
Me
who
too.
was bullied?
Mm.
So
I realized that.
you can tell that there definitely is this sort of influence of power
No
that
doubt.
this kid has,
Yeah.
and just because he's the son of this super rich food businessman.
Yeah.
So for me that was just like, oh man, that's messed up.
Yeah.
So yeah,
My most memorable scene. So for the Stripe Watch Award, it goes to the scene right after. So this is basically our introduction to Chairman Jang.
yeah,
It
yeah,
we
coming in the classroom.
we learned so much about everyone in that scene. So
Yeah.
Chairman Jang goes inside, and what I like, it's like he was so calm about it. He wasn't enraged.
Mm.
He wasn't, So that I think like the principal is asking Gunwan like, "Oh, are you okay?" And he was like, "Do I look okay? Do I look okay?" And then the moment Chairman walks in, Gunwan like just stands up, and he's like acting all behaved. And I'm like, that's really interesting. And then sorry, he sits down at this like power seat, and then everyone's like catering to him. What are we gonna do
Mm.
about it? And then, and this is the famous scene of he says like, "Oh, just kneel before my son." And
Yeah.
everything will be okay. Like we don't need to do anything anymore. Like just say you're
Yeah.
sorry. Learn from your mistakes. And then Surui's just like, no. Like my dad taught me to, like my dad taught me all these beliefs and to stand up for my beliefs.
Yeah.
And then Chairman goes up to the dad, and he's like, "What are we gonna do about this?"
Mm.
And then the dad, this is one of my favorite parts. So the dad says like, "Oh, he's just a child. He doesn't know what he's
Yeah.
doing yet. But I'm so proud of him."
Mm.
So I remember when I had that part, when I was watching that part, grabe lang yung grabe lang how powerful that was.
Yeah.
He's like, "I can't
for
believe
sure.
he's my son. I'm
Mm.
so proud of him. I'm amazed by him." I
Mm.
think that's the word that they used in the caption.
Mm.
And then the fact that he was able to do what he wants and still took responsibility, for me, that's the, while the previous show is the catalyst to the show, this is the one that sets the bar of belief and
Yeah.
sets the conviction of belief in the show. And this is
Mhm.
my scene for the Strike Watch Award.
Yo, Trey, if just a quick question.
Go.
If you were in that position of Park
Oh,
Serie, what would you do?
oh man. Okay,
That's
so
a that's a tough question. Even I'm asking myself that right now.
yeah,
Like,
because
what am I gonna do?
number one, I'm not really much of a physical fighter. I mean, I'm not the one to. I'm not likely to land the first punch. But in that situation, I think I do something similar. I'm not necessarily what he said. I mean, he said it with more conviction and
Yeah.
with he's so sure about it. For me, I'd be like, I'm sorry it caused trouble, maybe, but sorry, but I'm not sure how I'd react to that. How do you think you would?
For me, knowing me personally, I would be I would be at a loss for words.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, this is prior to me. I mean, sorry. This comes after the fact that I've already punched someone.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I would probably be like lost for words, and I'd probably just look at Jang Dae and just stare at him in the eye, and just give him the silent treatment.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna give you I'm not gonna give you the pleasure of putting me down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably what I would do.
I think it's really interesting though. I'd never kneel. Like, let's just get that straight. Like, that's something
Yeah.
I'd never do.
Same thing.
Right?
Even though it would put me or somebody I care about, like my dad, in a position that
Yeah.
would, you know, affect
Yeah.
everything, like his career, his job. At the end of the day, if you're willing, if you're firm on your beliefs, then that's enough
Yeah.
already to
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's really interesting though, because realistically, I might make a fake apology just to get it over with. Just knowing myself, like, is it worth it? Because all that stuff. I'm glad he did what he did, but you know, that's what happens. All right, we're gonna go to the next part. Do you have any last words for most memorable scenes?
Yeah, I'm
We're
excited.
gonna go through
That
more.
I liked just one quick
Go.
note. I like how we picked I like how we picked what do you call this, scenes that were next to each other. We have this. I see you. I see you there.
Very nice. Very
Great
nice.
minds think alike.
Very nice. Very nice. All right, we're gonna go to the next category.
All right,
Heartbreak
let's go.
scenes. What's the most heartbreaking scene of the episode 1?
Bro,
This is easy. This is easy.
episode 1. No, there. Here's the thing. There is no other heartbreaking scene aside
Yeah.
from this. There's really none.
Yeah.
Probably if you count the fact that guys getting bullied and whatnot. But come on,
Not really.
nothing can top nothing can top most, if not everyone's most heartbreaking scene, which is the death of Park Series' dad.
Yeah. Yeah. So I remember watching the scene. It was funny because when I first watched the show, so I was watching it in my room. So my parents have already watched the show. They were telling me it's a great show, so I started to watch it. I remember, so the scene where he's on a motorcycle and he's going back to Sirui. My mom went in the room, so I paused the show.
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Oh, I'm watching it now." And then she saw it like it was that scene. Just like,
Yeah.
okay. And then so she's done doing what she needed to do. She walks out of the room. I press play, and then he died.
Oh my gosh.
I was so.
Talk about timing.
Can I just say though that the GoPro shot was so good. I just realized that, like, it actually
Yeah.
follows his face while he's rolling down.
Yeah.
That's because when you first watch it, you're like, oh my gosh, what's happening? But the second time I watched it, I was like, wow, they actually showed his whole face rolling down that hill. And
Yeah.
it's just heartbreaking when I was watching it.
Yeah. And for me, it was heartbreaking for me because people closest to me know that I'm a sucker for father-son scenes. Most especially if something happens. And you'd hate as a for anyone, you'd hate for like somebody that you love go through all of that.
Yeah.
And not and the fact that Seroi also didn't say all of the things that he could have said, like on if for example his dad was on his on his deathbed, and
Mm.
there was still time to tell his dad all of the things he wanted to say.
Yeah.
And the only well, if not, I'm sure if the story permits, they probably had a lot of other conversations, but
Mm.
the closest conversation that we got as the viewers of the show with Park Seo-ri and his dad was when after all of the drama happened between Gunwon and Park Seo-ri. Now they went to this restaurant and they were just talking
Yeah.
about
Oh yeah.
talking
I love
about
that scene.
being a man and standing up
Yeah.
for your principles. That was the that was the only scene that we got where they had
Oh,
where
that's
they had
true.
um a meaningful conversation that
Yeah. Yeah.
brought depth to the show.
Mm.
So I felt so bad for Park Seo-ri, just having him go through all of that.
Yeah.
And knowing Park Seo-ri, he's a socially inept person.
Yeah.
He's very awkward around people. He has no friends at all, aside from Sua. But other than that, he only has his family. He only has his
That's
dad.
true. He only has his dad.
And his
Yeah.
dad was his building block, his foundation for
Yeah.
even his principles.
Yep.
So for him to just witness his father dying was absolutely heartbreaking for me.
There's one part that I completely forgot about but when I rewatched it again, he's actually looking at the picture of Serowi's mom and him and young Serowi, and he's like, I have to survive. That
Yeah.
broke my heart. Like when he was looking at it,
Yeah.
and everything after that, we'll talk about that a bit later in the last
Yeah.
part.
For sure.
Do you have any last thoughts on that?
Oh, can I just say the
Go.
soundtrack for that was absolutely
it's so
perfect, absolutely
It's
perfect,
so good. It's so
and it
good.
it made it more painful that the
Yeah.
lyrics were in English.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
Park Seo-hee actually has a line I forgot about. Right before the car crash. Well, yeah, accident. But right before the car crash, Seo-hee has he's like narrating over the show, and he says, "As long as we're
Yeah.
alive, nothing's a big deal."
Oh, so everything's a big deal now.
Yeah, as long as we're alive, nothing's a big deal. Then he practically says like that night, Dad didn't come home. That was crazy. Anyway,
Damn.
yeah, I agree. The soundtrack was
Painful.
so
Yeah, the soundtrack.
good.
If you guys have time to listen to it and read the lyrics,
Go.
please do. It's an amazing song. Go
It's
check
so
it out.
good. All right, let's go to the flutter scene moment that made your hearts flutter.
Yes.
All right, I want to go first on this one. All right, so
Go
for
ahead.
me,
Go ahead.
it would definitely be the lake scene. It was
I mean, yeah.
it was the part where it was our first like intimate conversation between Sua and Serowi. So they're just talking, and man, like the way that Serowi he's so shy, like it's so fun to watch. And then when he's asking for the number, and then Sue was like, "Oh, like give me your phone." Then he just like reaches out like right away. It's so cute. I forgot about that part. And then she basically just says like, "Oh, you shouldn't have a crush on me. Like you shouldn't fall for me." And then he was like, "You never know, like what
You
will
never
happen
know
in
what
life."
happens in life, man. You never know what happens in life, girl.
So that would definitely be my favorite flutter part.
Yeah, actually, just bouncing off from that because we have the same flutter scene. I found it. Oh, just watching it the second time around, I found it a bit just slightly abrupt. That from Park Seo-ri and Sua having tension because of an earlier incident. Their first impression of each other wasn't that good.
Yeah.
And that sudden transition to Park Seo-ri wanting to be friends with Sua. I found it a bit abrupt. I'll be honest there, but that emotion, that feeling of abruptness was overshadowed by the heart fluttering moment in the lake. But I love how Park Seroyi was just so straightforward.
Yeah.
Um, and that's one. That's actually one quality that. That's
That
actually one
what?
quality that I wish I had,
Ah.
to be to be a bit more to be more straightforward
Yeah. Yeah.
when conveying what I want to say,
Yeah.
whether romantic or uh, or
No, I
in
get you. I
general.
get you. Just like
Yeah, yeah,
to be able to say what you want to say. Cause I like how
yeah.
his dad was even like, I want you to live in confidence, basically something like that.
Mm,
Which is basically what he's been living with for the rest of
mm.
the show. Anything else on the lake scene? Cause
Um, Saranghe Sua.
all
Oh, by the
right,
way, wait, should I say it already?
yeah, go.
That
Oh wait, which
should I say
one?
already that I like Sua
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
more?
Oh,
All right.
just say your favorite. Like you really like Suwa.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Um, Short and sweet, best girl Sua. Saranghe.
all right, all right, all right. So we're gonna go to our next one. Oh wait, that happened. Parts that we forgot about that we just remembered when rewatching the show. So for me, I completely forgot that the show starts with Yiseo in the therapy scene. I
Oh.
completely forgot about that. When I was watching it, I was like, oh shoot, I forgot that it starts out with Yiseo talking about her work. And she's already working with Seroi. It's so
Yeah,
weird.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Mm.
then she has this line where she says, everyone knows how to become successful. Just work like crazy, but it feels like a chore.
Mm.
I found that so
Mm.
interesting to. I didn't realize the significance at the start because you don't know who she is, right? You're just like,
Yeah.
oh, she's some girl, and going to therapy. But then I don't know. Looking back, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
How about you?
for sure. Just touching on a bit about that scene, the intro.
Yeah.
Um, I found it interesting also that it was Yuseo's. She was the very first character or main character
Yeah.
that was introduced to the show, and normally you would introduce the main, not to put Yuseo down, but the actual main character, or
Mm.
the character that the story revolves around on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we got Yuseo, and I found that so interesting actually, and um, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I found that very interesting. For me, my most well, not forgettable, but the scene that I forgot was the how Sua and Park Seroyi met.
Okay, I have that as one of my. I listed that down. I agree.
Yeah, like I remember, as far as I can remember, they met because of school,
Yeah, me too. That's what
but
I
I didn't
remember.
recall the part where they met in the train
Yeah.
station. And
Exactly.
Sua, there was a old man
Mm.
asking for money from Sua, and we see Sua didn't refuse. She didn't offer to help the person, and
Yeah.
Park Seri noticed this, and he called Sua's attention, and he said like, "Hey, you should help this. You should help this person out because he might get hurt."
Yeah.
And she told Park Seri, it's none of my business, basically.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that I forgot that scene, and now that we're watching this again for the second time,
Yeah.
it was also a look, a first look at who Sua is.
Yeah.
Her character, that she doesn't want to be helped.
Mm.
Well, yeah, she doesn't like being helped,
Mm.
and she doesn't like people who need help,
Mm. Yeah.
because she was in that position already.
Yeah. She's been helping people, and she's been helped all her whole life.
Yeah.
So I found that really interesting.
Yeah, because she grew up as an orphan,
Yeah.
and just to connect just to connect her character. Um, another scene. I didn't. Well, okay. I admit I kind of forgot the scene when Sua and Park Seroi's dad talk together over by a
Yeah,
convenience store,
ramen
and
outside. Okay, that's one of my favorite scenes. Like visually, it looks so pretty
yeah,
that night.
yeah, and I liked how they talked about um Sua saying, "Oh, I'll never be like you,"
Hmm.
and Park Seroi's dad goes, "Then I hope you live a good life
Yeah,
and live a better life."
yeah,
And I remember, actually no, that wasn't the scene that I was trying to recall. No, but they're all good scenes. They're all good scenes,
yeah. They're all
guys.
good scenes.
Go watch it. Go watch it if you haven't yet. But the scene that I was trying to connect my earlier statement on the introduction to Sua was the lake scene again. The lake scene,
Mm.
particularly di- the 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 dialogue where the line where Park Seri asks her, "How come you like my dad?
Yeah,
Don't you? He helped you."
yeah,
And Sua was like, "Oh, he's different." And Sari's like, "Oh, really? In what way?" And Sua's like, "Oh, I don't have to tell you." I'm like,
yeah, yeah,
all right, okay, all right,
yeah.
all right then.
I remember
But yeah,
that.
that scene in particular, the train station scene, was the part I forgot. And just looking at it again, it's like, oh, all right.
Yeah, that's on my list also. I have another honorable mention.
Mm.
So at the start of the show, before he transfers to the other school, there's this girl who likes him, like likes Serui, and gives him a box of chocolates.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And she's nowhere else in the show. Like, I found that really weird at the first, like watching it. I'm like,
Yeah.
who are you? Like, I completely forgot who. Like, she was like, oh, there's something I like about him. All that stuff. She gives him chocolates. He's like, no, thank you. And then the whole thing happens, and I was just like, wait, what's the purpose of this? I guess it was just to show, like, his train of thought at the time. But I found that really interesting.
Or
Another,
how
yeah.
good looking he is. I'm just kidding.
Another thing would be to go back to the lake, the number exchange. I forgot about that part. I just remember them sitting there and talking.
Mm.
I completely forgot
Yeah.
about the don't have a crush on me, all that stuff. All right, let's go to biggest what if. So this is like
Biggest what if?
change one thing about the show, one decision, one character is different, all that stuff, and let's discuss it. What would your
Alright.
what if be?
What if dad didn't die?
Oh,
What
yeah,
if dad
that's the
didn't
big
die?
thing.
Then we'd probably have no Itaewon Class.
We'd have no Taiwan class, but
Yeah, we'd
I'd
just have
probably
like
think he'll live a modest life, you know.
it'd probably just be like, oh, I'm just gonna help my dad and stuff like that.
Yeah,
There was nothing to like there was nothing to push him to want to like succeed that much.
yeah. He might have
Compared
just
to
become a
when
cop.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And I say that he didn't have anything to make him want to succeed that much because, well, as we know, the show revolves around Park Serie and this group of ragtag
Mm.
team of restaurateurs, making
Yeah,
it
yeah,
big in the streets of Seoul, Korea.
yeah.
We wouldn't have any of that if Dad didn't die.
I think so too. I think
Yeah,
it would just play out how things play out. If that's the case, then Sua doesn't get the scholarship, probably.
that's true.
You know,
That's actually true. Yeah.
things are different. Things are totally different with how she never works at Janga. She probably doesn't work at like, Itaewon. We don't like that's a crazy thought.
She'd probably actually help Park Seri's dad with the
Yeah,
business.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Like Sarah's gonna go be a cop, and she'll be like, she'll help out there. Might be the
Yeah.
case.
And probably Sua would end up with Park Seri. you know.
All right.
Yeah.
My biggest what if is, what if Mr. Park got mad at Serowi after he got expelled?
Oh, yo, that is interesting.
What if? There's an alternate world
That's a big what
where
if, yeah.
he's just mad. He's like, I lost my job because of you, all that stuff. What if he was that kind of mad? I don't know. I just think that that's an interesting thing to look at. We don't get the show, of course we have, but at the same time, it completely changes everything about his beliefs. So
Mm.
it's such a hard, it's a hard thing to try to dissect. But I find that really interesting.
Mm. I actually have an honorable mention. What if Park
Go.
Setter-yi didn't get expelled? What if like Jang
Oh.
Dae-hee was this? I mean, he's still that stern, that firm guy, businessman, whatever, but he didn't get expelled. Then probably we'd definitely see more Gunwon and Park Setter-yi tension.
We probably have
Dishing
like
it out
a
in the
high school show.
classroom.
Yeah.
Then
It's about
probably
like high
that.
school and Gunwan trying to go after Suwa. Like that's what
Yeah,
the show
actually,
becomes about.
it's not anymore Itaewon Class. It's gonna be high school class. It's about high school. It's not anymore about the Itaewon. But yeah, like what if Park Seri didn't get expelled?
That's a good one. I
Probably
think
be still a cop.
he probably still be a cop. That's the other timeline in this. Do you have anything else?
Yeah. Actually, that's all.
All right.
What
All
if
right.
Park Seri didn't get expelled? Probably his dad didn't die, and they just have like a healthy competition.
Yeah.
But
That's interesting.
was it healthy?
I
don't
found that
think
really
so.
interesting though because there's the montage right after he gets expelled, and the dad's like, in the actually I forgot to mention this. This is actually one of my memorable scenes.
Go ahead.
The where he teaches Sarui how to drink. That's what that's a
Oh,
great
okay. Yeah, I'll
scene,
talk
right?
about that also.
That's wait, it became iconic, and
Hmm.
this goes straight into my best quote. All right, so for the best quote, what's the
Yeah.
best quote of the episode? Mine would definitely be. It has to be. How does it
Mm.
taste?
Mm-hmm.
It's sweet. For me, that's my favorite quote of the show, of
Of
the
the show.
episode.
Nice.
Like
All
when
right.
you don't realize it at the time, but it's
Mm.
just so impactful over the next 15 episodes. So that would be mine. What's yours?
All right. Actually, for me, that would be among the best quotes for me for that particular episode because yeah, as you said, it was it sort of set the atmosphere
Yeah.
or for lack of a better word that sort of set the underlying mood of the show that
Yeah.
if Park Sari had a good day, an impressive day, then his drink will be sweet or his life will be sweet.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't, then he'd still have to work harder
Yep.
to move towards that sweet day.
Yep.
And for me, I also have a runner up for best quote.
Go.
For me, just I mentioned this earlier. It's the conversation that Sua had with Park Sari's dad. That I'm never going to
okay.
live. Yeah, that conversation. I'm never going to live like you guys. Well, I do hope you end up living a better life. Go to college and you can pay me back twofold because
Yeah.
Park Sari's dad actually paid for the tuition of
Yeah.
Sua.
Sua. Yep.
And Osua replies, I'll succeed and pay you back threefold. I love that particular quote because you don't realize the significance of that particular line until after the show.
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
I want to talk about
yeah,
I want to
okay,
talk about
okay,
how it
okay.
connects to the show, but
Okay.
for now that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
I love that
Yeah.
particular scene, and
Yep.
when I finished the show, I was just trying to process everything, and I remember I remember that particular quote, and I was just mind blown about how the character of Sua developed. And if you watch the show, you probably think, oh, she'd probably just have like a flat character development because she's actually a supporting character because the show is mostly about Park Seri and Yiso.
Yeah.
But when when the show ended and I went back to that scene, it made complete sense. Everything just made
All
complete
right.
sense.
No,
Everything
that's a good
fell into
one.
place,
That's a good one. I didn't
and
think about that.
everything fell into place, and I was happy. I was happy in the end. Maybe not completely happy,
No, no, I get you. I
but
get
I
you.
was
All
happy
right.
knowing that. I was happy knowing that that particular quote
Yeah.
was not said in vain.
Okay. That's a
Yeah.
great one. I didn't think about
Um.
that. My runner-up
Yeah.
would be, as long as we're alive, nothing's a big deal. Like what I mentioned earlier.
Mhm.
It's such an underrated line. I never thought about that, but looking back
Mm.
now, I'm like, yeah, you're right. When
Yeah.
you're alive, you feel like nothing's a big deal, but the moment
Mhm.
you lose somebody, everything changes. Everything's a big deal now. Breakfast is a big
Mm.
deal. So
Mhm.
y-
Oh, there's one more quote,
go
by the way, I wanted to talk
go
about. It's not exactly the best quote,
go.
but it's definitely one that's worthy of mention. In the very beginning of the show, we see Park Seri with this girl giving him
Chocolates.
chocolates or
Yeah.
sweets before he leaves for another high school, and Park Seri straight up rejects the girl for the very very interesting and simple reason that
He doesn't
Park
like chocolate.
Seri
I doesn't like
doesn't
sweets.
like sweets.
Yes.
And I didn't that just watching it again, I was like, he doesn't like
Me
sweets.
also. I was like, what?
Connecting metaphor. Oh my gosh, like oh my gosh, he doesn't like sweets. So it for the first time viewers, you'd be like, oh, he doesn't like sweets. All
Yeah,
right,
like it's
he
just
doesn't like
okay.
chocolates.
He's a weird person. He doesn't like sweets.
Yeah, he's a weird person.
Yeah.
Like, all right. But then just going back and watching it again, it was like, he doesn't like sweets.
Yeah.
Because all his life. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one. All right. Do you have any more quotes, or do we go straight to the next one?
I am good, my friend.
All right, let's go. All right. So for the second to the last one, we call this the Itaewon Class Award. What's your biggest lesson or realization of the episode? You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Go.
For me, one of the biggest realizations that um I really appreciate is um is that values precede your personality.
Mm.
You can be socially inept, you can be awkward around people,
Mm.
you can have no friends at all.
Mm.
But if you're firm with your beliefs in doing what's right, then that's okay.
Mm.
You know, you can be really popular, you can be powerful, or you can have things your way. But
Mm.
if if your personality is crap, then in the end, people
Yeah.
will not like you at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
You may think people like you, but
Exactly.
you know, yeah, that for me was the biggest
Yeah.
realization.
I think I have something similar to yours, just phrased a bit differently.
Okay, go.
Mine would definitely be principles over performance. Meaning to
Mm.
say, like, the whole world was performing. Well, not the whole world, but like the school was performing for the chairman. You know, everyone was doing their thing for chairman. The kneeling down would be a kind of performance also. Like, oh, like, just kneel, it'll be all okay. But Sarawi didn't feel that way, so he didn't do it. So I found that really interesting. Appreciate what you have would definitely be one of it also. Only because, of course, the loss of his dad is definitely a big hit into our emotional stand for, I mean, like, emotional, where we are emotionally at the time. So definitely that would be the biggest ones. One thing I want to touch to is a lot of us want to be like Serowi. I think we also have to be like Mr. Park.
In what way?
Like, let's be dads like Mr. Park, or let's be mentors or leaders like Mr. Park was. I think that's something that let's, like, train the next Serowis, you know, along the way. And
Yeah,
for me, that's a big thing.
definitely.
All right.
Yep.
So for the last category of episode 1, we call this the lens flare rating. Rate the cliffhanger of the show. All right. So basically, the end of the show is. So basically, the end of the show is So his dad dies. He finds out that the plate number belonged to Gunwon. He goes to the hospital to where Gunwon was and basically beats him up. There's this emotional climax that's happening. He's beating him up. What I liked about that part also was that we actually find out that he did it. Because he's saying, like, I'm sorry. You know?
Yeah.
Later on, you realize that, like, they try to spin the story, all that stuff. But at that moment, you're like, okay, he did it. He's beating him up. He's talking about his dad. He's shouting. This is one of the most emotional scenes of the whole show. And then he's basically yelling. He's punching. He's punching. He grabs a big rock. He shouts, die. He's about to throw the rock. And then the photo freezes. Lens flare.
The lens flare.
What's your rating?
Normally, I'd probably give a bit generous rating.
Out of 10.
Out of 10, yeah. But since I'm just, at least on a personal level, I'm trying to be a bit more objective.
Yeah.
I would probably give it a 7 out of 10.
Why?
I'd give it a 7 out of 10 because I would probably want a little bit more something a little bit more to happen. Like, for example, Suwa would come and then she'd be shouting like, Park Center, don't do it. Yeah. All
right.
Yeah, and then like he's probably having that already, like mixed emotion face, like, oh man, I want to beat up this guy, I want to kill him. But the girl that I like's there. I don't know what to do. But yeah, I'd probably give it a 7 just for just because just on a personally I wanted a bit more, but not complaining. I think it served its purpose.
Yeah.
Us wanting more. So 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
My lens flare rating.
All right. So on a personal level, I have two different ratings, right? One is more objective.
Ooh.
One is my personal rating. So objectively, I'd say it's about a 7 or an 8. Similar to what you said, it does its purpose. It does its job. Not objectively, very subjectively to myself, I give it a 10. This is the scene that brought me into K-drama. This is the scene that made me think, oh shoot, this is gonna be a great show, and I want to watch more of it. And this is what led me to watch all the K-dramas I've watched after it. So for that reason, I give it a personal 10 out of 10.
Nice.
All right. Last thoughts on episode 1 before we end episode 1.
All right. Banger episode 1. I think episode 1 was it set the foundation of the entire show relatively well. And there's so much that here's the thing, there's in any show, whether it's K-dramas or a Western show for that matter, any show, you'd want the pilot episode to be strong, to have that hook that makes you want to watch more. And I think Itaewon Class executed that well. Gave us a very good introduction, laying the foundation for the characters and what the conflict will be. So overall, good. Great intro, great episode 1.
Yeah,
loved it. Yeah,
I realize now that I wish we had more of the dad. I guess he served this purpose in the show.
Yeah.
I mean, he did in terms of a plot point, but I just really wish we knew more about him. He seemed like this perfect character. It would be nice to see if he had some flaws or all that stuff. That's just me nitpicking at this point, right?
Yeah, that's all good.
But in terms of the episode itself, great show, great setup. You kind of know who everyone is at the end. I mean, like at least the main characters introduced here, and it's really we'll discuss it more as time goes on. But in terms of a first episode, very hooking. Very, very
Yeah,
good, very good.
for sure.
All right. Thanks, Josh, for coming in for episode 1. I'll see you in episode 2.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks for listening. To know more about us, check us out online at White Stripe Podcast, and you can follow me at Trey Remulla on Instagram and Twitter. You can also check out more content on YouTube. Just go check out. We have a lot of snippets out there. And you can also see more and follow full episodes on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.